Well, as you know from last week, we made it through Matthew, and we had our sermon last week from the book of Acts. And we looked at Acts chapter 10, where this amazing moment happens with Cornelius. Peter, having this great vision where he goes to Cornelius, if I can say his name right, and Cornelius and his whole house, the Holy Spirit comes upon them. And this wonderful moment where Paul's like, well, okay, I guess we can't keep them from being baptized then, can we? And we talked about all that. And I hope that was a really good kind of way to look at it. I really like that story for a lot of reasons. And that story also launches us, it launches all of Christianity, but it's launching us in particular into our sermon for this week, which is going to be from Acts chapters 13 and 14, where we have this little moment at the beginning of Acts 13 where Paul is commissioned to go and preach the good news. And then in chapter 14, we're going to look at one of the stories of that happen, and we see it happen. And Paul is just this really fascinating character. We're going to talk a little bit about his background, which, is not going to be probably new to many of you, but maybe we can tease a little bit out there. But then also the ways in which he just completely changes his life, right? He is on this one particular path, and he thinks he's on the right path. And then all of a sudden he's not, or he realizes that he's not, rather, and he makes a change. And he says, okay, I got to put all that behind me, and I have to go this way now, because this is where God is taking me. And so in chapter 14, we see this we see the story of Paul preaching the good news, and that's where we're going to go this week. And it's, like I said, it's coming off the heels of the gospel is now welcome. The good news is now a welcome good news to Gentiles, to those outside of Judaism. But where does it go from there? And we're going to take this brief look in chapters 13 and 14 of kind of where it begins to go. And then next week, with starting our study in Romans, again, it's just going to flow right into that, because we talked about Jesus. He left the good news for the apostles to preach. We see that spread to the Gentiles. What is the capital of Gentile world in the first century? Rome. And how does Paul handle talking about the gospel? The Romans have already gotten it, but how is he going to handle talking about it? And so all this is just flowing right together. I hope it makes sense to you from a story standpoint, where you go, okay, I see the connections, the timeline of how this is working, because I wanted to kind of make that flow well together. So anyway, that's where we're going this week, and a little hint at next week as we begin Romans. I'm looking forward to Acts 13 and 14 this week. I think it's a good little kind of aside looking at Paul and his mission to the Gentile world. All right, read chapters 13 and 14 of Acts and be blessed in doing that, and come ready to talk about it this Sunday. And I hope to see you all there if you can be. All right, have a great week, and I'll talk to you later.